African sovereignty or the sovereignty of any country or state. Why should we be talking about that? Well, let's define sovereignty to begin with. Supreme power or authority. So why can't Africa have its own supreme power or authority? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about how can we wrestle away power from the oligarchy and back to the people. And the oligarchy is a small group of people having control over a country, organization, or institution. So how do they get control? Well, in our current status or current today, we know that Europeans came into power not by buying, not by bargaining, but taking control of the things and the countries they wanted. But today, I just want to offer a critical perspective on the role of these people who operate in the oligarchy. And let's start off with financial institutions, because we never really talk about them having power, but money is the power in capitalism. So let's talk about the IMF fund, okay? International Money Fund in Africa. You know, when we start talking about that, this is a compelling observation that financial aid and loans from institutions like IMF to Africa are not acts of generosity, but they're the tools that control economically and exploit. These loans come with conditions that undermine Africa's sovereignty and economic independence, likening the current financial relationship to a form of modern colonialization. Control is exerted through economic policies rather than military force nowadays, with the IMF's policy designed to keep African nations in a state of perpetual dependency. The adverse effects of these policies are evident in various sectors, including agriculture, education, healthcare, leading to reduced public spending, privatization of essential services, and increased poverty. Well, how can you be in a poverty state when you're rich? Your country is rich. The document advocates for African nations to reclaim their economic independence by developing their own financial systems, currencies, and trade networks. But we don't talk about the colonization of Africa and of almost the whole world. And what Africa needs to do, and most countries that are controlled by Europeans, is they need to utilize their own resources and talents to build self-sustaining economies. It calls for a collective resistance against economic policies imposed by the IMF and other Western institutions. But there's a problem. You see, the West doesn't want that because they extract billions every year from Africa, and Lord knows where else. And encouraging Africans to believe in their own potential and to work towards economic freedom and self-reliance, no way they're going to do that. Because now you're taking away from what they've been milking for over 100 years. See, the arguments I'm going to present mirror the treatment of Africans and people of color all over this world. the economic exploitation and control experienced by African nations are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern of systematic and systemic oppression faced by people of color globally. The West's need to remove Ibrahim Traore from his presidency is a testament to this ongoing struggle, because Traore's leadership threatens wealth extraction that Western powers have relied on from continents they colonized and continue to control to this day. His vision for economic independence and self-reliance challenges the status quo, making him a target for those who benefit from the existing system of exploitation. And I can tell you, it's not Africans, it's not South Americans, it is Europeans. The fight for economic freedom and self-determination is just not an African issue, but a global one, as people of color everywhere strive to break free from the chains of economic dependency and chart their own path toward development and prosperity. And let me put it to you in a different way, okay? The loans that the IMF and financial institutions make with countries like continents like Africa are likened to a financial relationship to a form of modern colonization. Control is exerted through economic policies rather than military force, like when they divided it up at the Balfour Treaty. Okay, there was no Africans in the room, but they divided up a continent and took a piece for their countries, for their profit. The adverse effects of these policies are evident in various sectors, including agriculture, education, and healthcare, leading to reduced public spending, privatization of essential services, and increased poverty. The document that I am reading from and that I've actually gone through advocates for African nations to reclaim economic independence by developing their own financial resources, talents, for a collective resistance against economic policies imposed by IMF and Western institutions, encouraging Africans to believe in their own potential and to work towards economic freedom and self-reliance. There's nothing wrong with Africa's mind, their ability to take care of their own self or anything. It's meddling, it's extraction of wealth, and people do not want them to do that, because if they do that, then they run out of money. The economic exploitation and control experienced by African nations are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader systematic oppression. Now, Traore has a vision for economic independence and self-reliance, which challenges the status quo, making him a target for those who benefit from the existing system, okay? And this fight for economic freedom and self-determination is just not an African issue, but it's a global one, as people of color everywhere strive to break free from the chains of economic dependency and chart their own path towards development and prosperity. They have been telling us ever since, I was a baby, what you can't do, but they never gave you the chance to do it. They don't allow you to be able to be competitive in any way, because we are the host that they feed off of, okay? And let me ask you a question. What are we facing right here in America right now, with not even having a proper opportunity to vote, to say who will be our representatives? And the people are supposed to have the power, but the people have sat on their ass, and now all of a sudden they're in so much trouble, now you don't want a king. But if he gets a hold of the military, you will have a king. okay? And you won't be able to blame anybody but yourself because you let it happen.